standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live, you are live.
Good morning and welcome to this most spectacular sunrise safari. We're on the hunt for lions. They've been roaring all around camp. My name is Brent Smith. I have Jeandre herding on camera. We have Jamie and Dangerous Dave on the other vehicle. And we have Geraldine and Louise in final control. So we know they're around here very close. So we're just doing a loop quickly around. Jamie is checking on the other side and hopefully we're going to find them shortly. I'm almost 80% certain it is the Nkahuma Pride who have come back after their vacation in the west. And hopefully they're going to provide us with some great entertainment this morning. And for those of you who might have stumbled across the stream, welcome to a live African safari. Now, it is just before sunrise, hence all the lights I've got flashing about, and we're looking for lions. And I think elephant has removed a tree and placed it directly in my path. I'll just, for now, drive around said tree. Incredibly powerful beasts, and hopefully we'll see some a little bit later on the safari. I've got a sneaking suspicion that they might even pop up on the Juma pan cam, so those who watch that, keep an eye out, let me know. If you're new to letting me know or asking me questions, you're more than welcome to at WildEarth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter. Apparently the dam cam is down, we do apologize. So what we're going to do shortly, once we've finished our loop, we don't find these lions, we're going to sit quietly and listen. And that's often the best way to find animals, is to use your ears. Oh. Well, Book Diva is saying, wow, it's so noisy in South Africa. Hashtag Dawn Chorus. Well, Book Diva, I've never heard hashtag, or I've never seen the hashtag Dawn Chorus before, but I think I might borrow that from you. But yes, so we've got a cacophony of different birds and animals that are waking up in the sunrise. I think the most loud and dominant of all those calls are definitely those lions. Debbie obviously was listening to me last night and says she's hoping for a leopard with a kill in a tree in the middle of quarantine. We do apologize for all the tech issues we are having at the moment, and I do guarantee our tech department are really trying to get that stuff sorted as soon as possible. Standing by, Alex, just on the game drive quickly.
Good morning, Brent. You guys got anything yet?
Negative, Lex, the audio seems to be broken up quite a bit. Jamie's checking one set audio towards Zoe's, and then I'm checking around camp at the moment. But it does sound like they might be possibly heading to in front of Vuyatela.
Okay, copy, Brent. We also had a leopard calling right next to room 1 at Gallagher about 3 o'clock this morning.
Okay, copy, thanks very much. So how's that? The guys staying in Gallagher has just given me an update that as well as the lions at about 3 a.m. there was a leopard calling right outside their room. So hopefully we do have a nice busy Monday full of kitty cats. So while we frantically rush in search of these lions, let's go say good morning to Jamie.
Good morning and welcome to the sunrise safari. What is that? Dave, please can we have a closer look at whatever is in my spotlight? I think it's a daker. Drop it down a little bit. Yes, there I see the tail swishing. It's those ears that play a trick on you and you think it's something cat-like, especially when you've got lions calling. Okay, take the spotlight off him. I really thought it was the lions. Oh, here we go. There's several sets calling, as I'm sure Brent has told you. They're scattered all over Jeandre, so now it's just a question of finding them. But I have to tell you, and I really have to share this with you because it absolutely made my day. When we go out on the presenting vehicle, there's a light here that illuminates our face in the dark, and when it's on, you can't see behind it. And Brent raced off to go, so excited about the lions calling, that he raced off this morning without Jeandre. Jeandre was standing in the driveway. We were still sitting in the driveway waiting for Alex to double check our broadcast signal. And Brent just drove off. And the funniest part of it was that apparently he kept trying to do his camera checks with Jeandre and there was no response. And the funniest part was he got to probably about 500 meters, maybe even more away, and we could all hear the laughter across the reserve as he realized that he'd driven off without his cameraman. It definitely made my morning. Poor Jeandre. I completely agree with you. Matt says that the suspense is killing him. Lions, leopard, and hyena, you can hear them all. The question is, where are they? Matt, I'm completely on that same page. There's always this excitement first thing in the morning, whether or not there's lion calling, although, of course, when they are, that excitement absolutely doubles. But there's always that excitement and that anticipation of finding the animals that have been moving about during the night. Just trying to work out where exactly those calls were coming from. Actually, quite chilly this morning. The excitement is there. And there's always those mysteries to unfold when you go out in the morning. No wonder I'm so chilly. Apparently it is 20 degrees centigrade, which is 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which for us is positively, what would we say, positively Arctic in terms of temperature compared to what we have become used to over the last few months. I probably haven't introduced myself. My name is Jamie, and I have Dave on camera with me this morning. Dave, we're going to find lions before Brent.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we are. Maybe we are. We'll go with that. Yes, we definitely are. Challenge laid. Challenge laid. The problem this morning as well, apart from Brent leaving his cameraman behind, I'm sorry, I'm still laughing at that. It was Jeandre's body language stood in the car park. It was so sad. Standing by, Brent trying to call me now. Copy that, I will do. I'm certain I heard audio again towards, actually even further west of where I am, so towards Impala Road, Sandy Patch Junction. But I'll check Twin Dams first. Copy that. Brent and I are just discussing where we think these lions are. And somebody's just calling me on the game drive comms. Sorry, hold on 1 second. Oh, there we go. Brent's on it. He's replying for me. We're just discussing how exactly we're going to go about this search. They've got to be... They're so scattered that it's... Guess... We're just deciding exactly where it would be best for us to check. With the main group of lions, it's most likely that the calling group is trying to... And it definitely sounded like males. So it could well be that they're attempting to reunite with each other. Unlike Brent and Jeandre, except they managed to do that a little bit later. Robin has said that perhaps Brent really did need his coffee this morning. Look, coffee is very much an essential part of our daily routine. In all fairness to Brent, I think that Jeandre managed to get off the back of his vehicle very quickly to go and replace the cable without Brent realizing. And you really, I promise you, you really cannot see. When you look backwards, I mean, at the moment I can see Dave because it's starting to get light. But you really, really cannot see when that light is illuminating you and you're looking backwards towards the camera. And it was only when he did his cameraman checks. We have a checklist that we go through every single drive. So essentially going through, you know, are our tires okay? Is there enough petrol in the car? And then for the cameraman, is the lens clean? Is the antenna upright? Perhaps we should add, do you have your cameraman to the presenter checklist? Dave, I promise you I'll never ever leave you at camp. I won't.
So they came from Gallagher shortcut past the camps, and then they came down here. We should be able to see a track quite nicely shortly. You got a track you can see there, Jeandre. There we go. Really nice and fresh. You can see the wet edges. So I'm just going to go try to figure out exactly where they left the road so we can get a direction. While I do that, let's jump on board with Jamie.
I've figured out their direction, or at least I've figured out one's direction. Thank goodness. I don't feel like I'm going so crazy anymore. I thought I really was when I heard calling from here, but look at this. What an exciting way to start our morning. One Birmingham boy, one very confused Birmingham boy. You can see how he's pacing about backwards and forwards. He can't quite decide which way he's going to go. He's smelling. What is he sniffing? He's found something to sniff. Hello, boy. I suspect that there might be another male somewhere around us. The reason I suspect that is there's actually, from where I'm sitting, I can see two other vehicles sitting on the Triple M boundary. There we go. One of the Birmingham boys. I'm just going to call this in on the Game Drive channel, just because. Stations 1 Medora Ngala on the Balanites Triple M junction. Animal is static for now. What's he doing? He's found something that obviously smells very interesting. It looks like he wants to actually roll in it. Yep. He's actually scraping the smell onto himself. That is wonderful. Rubbing his cheek on the grass and the leaves. Look at that. I'm sure that is the scent of one of the other Birmingham boys. That has scent marked, and now he is rubbing himself in it. And as a result, that's one of the reasons why he has, hello, gorgeous, flies fluttering about him. Oh, my word, look at that. Absolutely covered in them. And he's having a wonderful time. Oh, there's the second Birmingham boy. Dave, if you look to your left along the road, right behind the tree that's in your way, There's 3. Awesome. Fantastic news. So exciting. And they're going to call. I'm going to be quiet. How amazing is this for a way to start our morning? I really thought they were going to call, but it looks as though they're going to come and greet this other Birmingham boy. Oh, there's the gentleman with the limp walking at the back. They've been in the wars, these guys. Oh, Dave, come here. They're going to do their head rub. Look at that. Look at that injury on his stomach. Cuddling each other. Oof. What happened to you, boy? Here comes the third. He's going to join in with the close bonding. Can you hear them purring to each other? Flopping down. A pile of male lions. What a way to start off the day. So exciting. I'm very chuffed. These boys have definitely been in the wars, though. There's our gentleman with the limp, who is the one with his foot sticking up. And then there's also now, from what I can see, this male in front of us has got a fairly injured stomach. I mean, it's not too serious. That's going to heal up very quickly. Look at them. Look at them having an amazing time in whatever is terribly smelly on the grass. Look at them. Isn't that fascinating? There's something there that smells absolutely wonderful to them, that they are loving, they are rolling in. And Mildred, you were saying that your cats do this on catnip, or react like this to catnip. Yes, big cats react exactly the same way to catnip. It's something that's been trialed with leopards, and something that we considered doing once just to see how the very, very wild leopards around the farmlands that we used to work in would react. We never did it in the end. We decided that we wouldn't sort of expose or put catnip in a way that it could be an exotic species. Sorry, I'm just going to let these lions do their thing for a moment because this is fascinating. This is absolutely awesome. You can hear them purring. I'm going to be quiet so you can listen. I completely agree, James Richards, which is why I'm staying fairly quiet for now, because I think this kind of sighting speaks for itself. Just to listen to them butting heads and rolling around. James Richards has said 3 Birmingham boys. It's so long since we've had a sighting like this. And absolutely, Karen, I completely agree. Their manes have filled out tremendously since I last saw them. James, this is the first time I've seen 3 Birmingham boys, or more than one Birmingham boy, in probably about, for me personally, probably about 3 months. 4 months even. Look at them looking down the road. Something's attracted their attention. Let's just be quiet for one moment. Oh, lost interest. This is such an incredible sighting. I wonder what it is that they are loving about this patch. Look at them all looking off to the north of them. Where are you off to, boy? Don't go west again. Come this way. The ladies are calling east, not that way. Sorry, everyone. Hold on one moment. Standing by. You're more than welcome to. Best approach is either from Balanites or Impala Road. We're on that little triangle at the junction of Balanites and Impala Road. Animals are static. We've got 3 Madoras now. That's affirmative. He's scent marking and scratching his paws, adding to their territorial markings. Here's that affection again. Liz, you were wondering if perhaps they're rolling in, gently, boys, they were rolling in buffalo dung. It's a possibility, but I think actually, to be completely honest, Liz, I think what's more likely is that it's the scent marking of the other 2 boys in this coalition. So for new viewers, meet the Birmingham boys. Hello, you're going to come right up next to us. Checking you out, Dave. How was that? What an awesome feeling first thing in the morning. What a special moment. When a lion walks past you like that and when it looks at you like that, there are no words to describe exactly that feeling. As soon as they look into your eyes, we've got such a gut response, and we all have it as humans. Yes, perhaps we're more used to it than others, but nevertheless, it never fails to affect us. He hasn't carried on walking, by the way. He's actually sitting down in the road, but right behind us, so we'll keep an eye on him, but for the moment, we'll stay looking at these 2 that have been rolling in the scent marking. As I said, I think it's the markings of the other 2 Birmingham boys that came through here earlier, or possibly even urine from the females. But lions are like that. They will rub themselves and lie down in almost anything, from hyena scat to wild dog scat. Anything like that will be something that attracts them. And when we first arrived, that gentleman who is now lying down, he was particularly fascinated with this particular patch of grass. They didn't phlegm and grimace, which makes me think it might not have been the female's scent that attracted them. And it immediately brings to mind when I first got my dog, when she was still very, very young, and I was teaching her about the presence of lions because she lives in an open camp without fences. And we were following lions, and we watched them do exactly what these lions have done, which is roll themselves in something. I can't remember exactly what it was. And after the lions had left and moved away, I put her out of the vehicle to just have a sniff. It was amazing how instinctively she was absolutely terrified of that smell. I had to teach her. I had to teach her that lions were around. She needed to know. And she survived because of it, standing by. But it was a very interesting experience. Copy. Just guiding yours into the sighting. Look at all of those flies. Interesting how they've all congregated around one male. Now, from what I understand, every time I use the Game Drive channel, it's interfering a little bit. So what I'm going to do very quickly is I'm just going to ask Brent to take control of this particular sighting, because it is going to get fairly busy, I think. I love it when they do that. Tucking their chins under to wash their chests. And yes, those manes have filled out completely. The line's coming back on your left, Dave. Awesome. He's also got a bit of a limp. In fact, I'm not sure if this is the gentleman that did have the limp initially, or if two of them are limping. I think it's actually a different male. I think the one at the back, or now the one in the middle, is the one with the serious limp, Birmingham boy number 2, and that the one in the back also has a limp for different reasons. But I've actually almost lost track now. Look at him scent marking. This is awesome. Let's keep our fingers crossed that they're going to call. And I'm going to speak softly now. There's another vehicle with us, so I don't want to disturb their sighting either. One line moving off towards the west again. I don't think... I'm covered in spider webs this morning. I don't think he's going to go too far. I think he's actually going to return to these two and stay with them. I'm really hoping, though, that they do call, because the set of lions that we were listening to earlier were definitely calling that area. Now, I just need to pop onto the Game Drive channel and manage the sighting. So while I do that, just because of the interference, let's jump onto the back of Brent's vehicle.
So we're hunting for 2 possible different cats at the moment. Tracks of the Impala pride are up and down and around everywhere. So we're just trying to figure out exactly where they went. And also there's tracks of a female leopard. Maybe the queen has decided to visit us. And this is, if there's female leopard tracks around here, they're more than likely going to be Queen Karula's. More buffalo running tracks here. Coming down from up there, we've got lion tracks going every which way. And of course, they've decided to keep quiet now. So we're just double checking now that it's a bit light through the areas we've already checked. Or we've checked first this morning, and hopefully we will be able to see a track. Of course, in the dark, it's a bit harder to find tracks. Not impossible, but definitely much harder. So who knows what could be out here? We just have to check very, very carefully. And there's that same fallen tree that we passed a little bit earlier.
Legs, come in, legs going.
Okay, so while we keep searching, it looks like those lions are getting mobile, so let's jump back on board with Jeandre.
A very brief separation from the lions, but I just wanted to call you back here because I think they're going to get up. And yep, and there goes the third one. And they're going to be on their way towards Triple M. That's definitely why I wanted to keep an eye on them. They're heading towards Arathusa, it seems as though. How's your heart rate, Dave? Kay wanted to know how Dave's heart rate is. I think he's definitely as excited as I am. I'm very chuffed because I really honestly thought that I'd imagined the calls that I heard coming from this direction. And Brent gave me a choice as to which way I was going to check. Now, I'm going to let Lex go ahead of me. The reason I'm going to do that is because Lex can't follow them once they cross this main road, but I can. So it's just good manners to let him go ahead, because they are going to cross, which means his guests are not going to be able to view them for as long as we can. Does mean we have to negotiate one of the worst sections of road. Oh, did you smell that, Dave? Yeah. Goodness me. That's a lion with an upset stomach. Oh. Oh, please don't tell me I drove through that. They're going to have a quick drink. There you go. Awesome. Now, I mentioned that that was particularly smelly, that particular area that we drove past. And Alice, who's watching in Ohio, would like to know, why are lions dirtier than leopards? And Alice, I think there's a combination of reasons. One, they are just not quite as cleanly because they don't necessarily clean themselves as often. But there's also the additional factor that as the dominant species, as the dominant predator out here, they don't need to. And I'll explain what I mean in a moment. Let's just watch them walk down the road in a row. This is an awesome sighting. I wonder where these three are off to. This is stunning. Well, these guys have been exceptionally vocal this morning. And I think the reason we heard so much in the way of vocalization is that Jorse has just heard, or has just found, two of the Salati males on Buffelshoek. And they were obviously calling, as well as the Birmingham boys. So a bit of a minor sort of clash between the two coalitions of this particular area. Okay. James Richards, absolutely. They are looking a bit rough. But as you say, it's the price you pay if you want territory and ladies. I wouldn't be surprised at all if those injuries that they have on them were actually inflicted by other members of the coalition. From what we've seen, they haven't had a clash, or from what we know, they haven't had a clash with other members between different, or other members of other coalitions. So Laura, you in particular were asking who did they fight with? And I'm pretty sure, Laura, that those injuries came from fights amongst each other. It's amazing because when you have a sighting like we had this morning with them head rubbing and showing all of that affection between them, it's hard to imagine them being so aggressive to each other. But that's exactly where those injuries have come from. Fighting each other either for access to females or for access to food. This is such an amazing sighting. Look at the way they're walking. Memorize that stride. Look at the speed that they're going at, and then we'll come back and look at the way the tracks fall. And you'll get a really nice idea of how to look at tracks and the speed that they go. This is a slow walk. Although they have injured each other and caused a couple of scratches and uncomfortable bits, but there you can see how tight their bonds remain. They're all going to scent mark the same tree. Sharon, yes, the Birmingham boys will hunt together and they will share kills. Sorry, Cheryl. Cheryl, you were asking that particular question. Cheryl, yes, they will hunt together. They will share their kills together. That being said, and I'm going to actually try and loop around them and reverse backwards in front of them, and I'll dodge their tracks so we don't drive over them. Cheryl, that being said, as with any lion group, whilst moving through an area, or whilst hunting and whilst catching their prey, they will fight over it. Now, there will be that level of conflict between them. Now, the biggest problem at the moment is that these lions are walking down a main road. So there are other vehicles that are approaching. I just need to make sure that we've got the sighting under control. Here we go. Shanae's in control. Well done, Shanae. Thank you very much. It's phenomenal to see the way in which these Birmingham boys have grown. Look at that. That is awesome. And they're probably between 4 to 5.5 years old if we look at the different ages. And Kathy, who is watching all the way in Tennessee, was wondering a little bit about how male coalitions are formed and if they are all the same age. And Kathy, they don't have to be the same age. Most of the time, they are formed by members of the same pride, so young males of the same pride, leaving that pride together and forming a coalition like the Birmingham boys have done. So the Birmingham boys are named the Birmingham boys because they came from the same pride. This is so awesome. Look at that, a trio of trouble. Sandra, you were also wondering about their names and where it comes from. Sandra, it comes from the Birmingham Pride, which in turn is named for the piece of land that the Birminghams come from, or the Pride comes from. A lot of the patches of land, or a lot of the farms out here, are named after various places within the UK or within the surrounding areas. So there's an Essex, there's a Liverpool, there's a Birmingham, for example. And that's because the land surveyors in this particular area came from the UK and surrounds when they were delineating the borders of the farms. No problem, Lex. Impala's alarm calling. So, Sandra, that's where the name Birmingham comes from. It comes from a patch of land that these lions originated from. And they formed their coalition because they were sort of roughly the right age to do so. And they all were about the sort of 3-4-year-old mark when they left their pride, and they had company, so they could move about together. But it's not always the case with forming a male coalition. So it sometimes happens that unrelated male lions will actually form a coalition together. There is another vehicle that is attempting to get through. This is the one thing about a main road sighting. I think that they have plenty of space. watching the three of them together, you get an idea of just how tightly bonded these lions really are. And I started talking about the fact that they don't have to be related to each other. So male coalitions can be formed when two unrelated but of similar age male lions find themselves in the scary position of being away from their pride and moving through an area without any kind of support, and they happen to encounter another male of a similar age. Oh, awesome. Yes, have a rest right there, please. Thank you very much. Oh, John, you were wondering, will they stay together for the rest of their lives once this coalition is formed? And yes, absolutely they will. That being said, we've got a coalition here of 5 young males. We're only looking at 3, but there are 5 of them within this group. And both John and Aqua were wondering a little bit about the way in which that works. John, they'll stay together for the rest of their lives. That being said, in answer to Aqua's question, this is an awesome view. That being said, it does seem as though the Birmingham boys have, not permanently, but for the most part, they tend to separate into a 3 and a 2 grouping. That's very common with large male coalitions once they've established their territory, but it's not a permanent situation. I'm just going to go catch up with them. I'm actually going to try and get ahead of them so that we can have a little bit of their faces for now. So they'll come back together as a group of 5, and they do on a fairly regular basis, whether it's to call to each other, whether it is to defend their territory against other male interlopers that might have entered into their territory, or maybe even because they want to defend a kill. There's a couple of different reasons why the coalition might reunite once again. So the separation is definitely not permanent, although I think that we will fairly regularly be seeing that split between 3 and 2. The same thing happened with the Mpopo lions. They also split off into, once they'd established a really, really large territory, they also split off into a group of 3 or 4 in one area, and then a slightly different area was patrolled by a group of, or 2 of them. So they do split, male coalitions do split and come together. Hello, boy. I'm not 100% certain, but I feel as though this might be the lion that was mating with the female. Maybe not. It doesn't have that limp. Blair and our other lion experts, if you could let us know which Birmingham boys you think we are with, just because I haven't seen them in such a long time. That would be absolutely awesome. Thank you. How incredible is it how dark their manes have got? Even if just from when we last saw them, or when I last saw them. Let's see if we can loop a bit further ahead. It's an interesting question from AJ and Ellen. One of the Birmingham boys has been doing far more in the way of scent and territorial marking than the other. And Ellen wanted to know, is that one more dominant? I'm just checking to see. My lights are all off. Apparently I've got an update to say switch off the vehicle lights. They are all off. Oh, I see. It's the one outside of my control. Here we go. Catch up with them now. So in terms of the dominance of lions within a coalition, it's a really interesting study, and I don't think it's something that anybody fully understands. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with size or age. It has more to do with the personality of the individual. Let's go ahead a little bit, catch up with them there. How's it, Jeandre? Sorry about the headlights.
No, it's okay.
So usually within these coalitions, you find that there's one lion with a personality that is particularly dominant. And it's connected to the way that the amount of aggression that they demonstrate in their day-to-day life. So yes, it could well be that that male is more dominant than the other two. We've seen it very clearly in practice just in the last few months with the male that we call Scrapper, or Tokolosh. Where's this other male gone? He seems to have... Oh no, they're all there. Okay. We're just going to get a little bit ahead of them further down the road, and we'll be able to turn around and view them from there. And then at some point we are going to have to pull out of this sighting just because there are several other vehicles that would obviously like to see 3 male lions walking down the road. So we'll have to remove ourselves at some point. Just get a really nice view of them walking down the road towards us. How's this? Awesome. I'm going to keep moving for a little bit so that we keep up with them, and then I will pull over and let them come past us. So it could well be that the male that we've seen scent marking is more dominant. That is not always necessarily the case, though. All of the male lions within a coalition will mark their territory. There we go. Thank you very much, Blair. Apparently we are with Blondie. Blondie, who I don't think he's that blonde anymore, and Birmingham boy number 3 and number 4. Blair, I'm sure you'll agree with me when I say that I think they need, or well, maybe not. Maybe we need to start watching their personalities a little bit more before we name them. I certainly feel as though Scrapper has earned his title, and maybe Blondie because he's always been, or at least initially, always looked to be the largest. But I do think we're going to at some point have to, although it will be the guides that ultimately make that decision of the Sabi Sands, but I think it would be nice to come up with a different name other than just the numbers. So we've got Blondie, number 3, and number 4. And Miss Lynn, who is watching on, but saying that, and Miss Lynn, who's watching on Twitter, she's saying that when she first heard us talking about the B-Boys, she thought that it was a boy band. And obviously has now since come to light that it is a coalition of some extraordinary young males. And it was actually Hayden Turner who first coined the term Birmingham boys. And I'm going to pull over now so that they can come past us and that we don't ruin other people's shots. And we'll just watch them come past us. While we watch them go past, I just need to chat on the Game Drive channel. Hello, boys. I can't actually get onto the Game Drive channel. There's a bit of conversation happening. Penny Pine, you were wondering, are these gentlemen lucky to have survived to this age? And yes, to an extent, absolutely. That applies to all lions that reach adulthood, to be completely honest. There's a very high cub mortality rate. Just bear with me one moment. I just want to have a quick chat to Jeandre, who's in charge of the sightings lineup. Jeandre, I'm happy to pull out so that other vehicles can come in. Sorry? That's perfect. Cool, awesome. As soon as we get to the dip, then I'll pull out and they can come make their way in. Awesome, thanks. Go ahead. Cool. No problem. Hi, guys. Lots and lots of vehicles wanting to make their way in. It is a main road, which means it falls falls into the boundary of our sort of boundary of lots of different traverse areas and where we can drive, as well as for this poor gentleman driving on our right who is just trying to get somewhere but has found himself with a lion roadblock. I say poor gentleman, I mean, there's not a better traffic jam in the world than being stuck behind 3 male lions. Morning. He seems quite happy with his lot in life. What was I chatting about? Oh, Penny Pine's question about whether or not these lions are lucky to have survived this far along. They are and they aren't. So once they've made it, once a cub has made it sort of past that 1.5 year mark, their chances of survival are much increased. But for the Birmingham boys, having 5 of them is of a tremendous advantage. Let's have a last look at them in the morning sunlight, because we are going to have to pull out of the sighting soon. There he's limping. Interesting. So if this is number 3 and number 4, that limp I'm uncertain as to where they are going to end up. They might decide to keep walking all the way to the south and into Hoffman's. They could stay on Arethusa, so we could come back into the sighting once the other vehicles have had a chance to watch them. Very much depends on what they decide to do. It's getting warmer, so they could well lie down at some point, but I honestly don't know where they're off to or how far they're going to go. So this might be the last view we have of them. It might not. I promise I will double check with the guides on Arethusa. Now, I will double check with the Arethusa guides once they move away. Oh, that's a little bit loud. I'm going to pull out of this sighting for now. Let me just check. I think I might have... There we go. Microphone is still there. A good way to start the morning. That is awesome. And the other thing is that there are still lions somewhere on our property. I'm sure that there are, because the 3 of them that were calling were not the ones that we heard earlier. We definitely had lions closer than that calling first thing this morning. So there are other lions on the property. And we're going to pull out of the sighting for now. We will reconnect with them, hopefully, fingers crossed, at the end of the drive or a bit later after everybody else has had a chance to join them. Nevertheless, we've had an extraordinary start to our sunrise safari. And while I pull out of the sighting and communicate on the game drive comms, let's jump onto Brent's vehicle.
So, because you've had lions with Jamie for so long, we abandoned the Nkuhuma tracks for now, and we found tracks, one of our, it looks like Karula. So she might have come through into this area. The last tracks are just down there. We're just making sure she hasn't popped out. I can't find any tracks of her crossing the northern traverse boundary. I'm just going to go very slowly now. So I do apologize if I don't make as much eye contact as normal, but the ground is very hard, and there's already a beautiful track actually to confuse us. I'm going to go back to it. There's a clearer one I saw. Now, when I initially saw it, it gave me a bit of excitement, but it was... There we go. There's this... I don't want to drive over the track, but it was beautiful in this runoff section. Can you get that track there, or am I too close still? Oh, no, let me just move a little bit for you. There's the track. Just get a little bit more width. Stick on that one's the nicest one to see. A little bit to the right. Same tracks, but there's a very clear one there. So you can see a very cat-like paw in the front, but it's got this very long back pad. and you can see the claws, very big, prominent claws sticking through there. And that is a honey badger track. So there's been a honey badger wandering around here in the morning, or sorry, in the dark hours. But that's not what we're after, but it would be a wonderful bonus to spot a honey badger, and it's also continued down here. And you might notice, after the rain, we've got spider webs everywhere. So if any arachnophobes out there, beware. I might even have a spider land on my face. So the last tracks of Karula are just down here. So Jeandre is checking all the prominent termite mounds while my head is plastered to the ground, trying to make sure I don't miss any tracks. And we all know Karula likes a good termite mound to have a snooze on. So I'm hoping she's been busy. Hopefully even she's caught something and we'll find it. But if we don't find any tracks of her here, or we don't find her, I think there's a very good chance if she didn't catch anything last night, she's going to turn around and head back southeast towards where she's denning. And it is about time she's possibly moved the den again, but we won't be able to confirm that just yet. The ground is so hard here. So some of you guys who watch regularly will remember Scott and I had a fantastic joint science of Karula. We're both on either side of a termite mound, and it was the termite mound just there. So she does like this area. There it is. So that was the termite mound that Scott and I had that wonderful joint sighting on. So while we continue to try find out where this leopard has gone, it seems like Jamie is a big fiving properly this morning, so she's got another member of Africa's Big Five to show you.
Not a bad way to continue our morning after leaving that group of the 3 male lions, finishing off with a herd of elephants. I just want to double check that you can hear me. Dave, are you getting sound?
Yes, got levels.
Okay, so it should be fine. Let's try and catch up with the rest of the herd. Now they are rapidly crossing the road and into quite a dense block with a lot of monkey orange, so it's going to make a noise if I try and follow them. Katrina's just saying that this is, all in all, our day has had much better traffic jams than the one that she was stuck in today. No girly. Katrina, I can't really think of a better traffic jam to be stuck in. It is exceptionally very much into the sun, but what a beautiful way to continue our morning. Hello, gorgeous girl. It always astounds me the way they can do that. That plant that she is eating is known as a sickle bush. A sickle bush has thorns that are easily 3 or 4 inches long and exceptionally solid, capable of piercing a tire with complete ease, and yet she's sticking them straight in her mouth without any concern. Even though I know how it's possible, it never fails to astound me. Janet, I think that is an entirely valid excuse. Janet would like to blame the lions and the elephants for being late for work this morning. Absolutely, Janet. I feel as though that is a valid excuse. Luckily for me, they don't make me late for work. They are my work. Really, it doesn't get better than that. But I feel as though, and you know, funnily enough, Janet, I have actually used the reason of lions, elephants, and other animals being in my way for a reason to be late. They have waylaid me on several occasions within my life in the bush. I have nearly missed planes before. I have nearly missed meetings before, all very much thanks to the presence of the animals. In fact, the other day, I actually had to send, when Brent was still on leave, I actually had to send James a message to tell him that I hadn't overslept in the morning and that I couldn't get to work because there was an elephant standing in my way, in our driveway. So you know, the challenges of life in Africa are a real thing. Perhaps shouldn't really be termed challenges, though. Rest of the herd coming across in front of us, just here. Trying to see if I can recognize which particular herd it is. I've started to get to know the different elephant herds fairly well, which is also something special. I love being able to know the different individuals within different groups. And it is such a beautiful morning. Oh, I don't want to drive over those tracks I promised you. Beautiful morning accompanied by the smell, the grassy, thick smell of elephants and their dung. I don't know how I could begin to describe it. It's such a beautiful scent. It's one that I'm exceptionally fond of. Such an exceptional amount of tranquility. I'm quite happy to just sit here for the moment and just enjoy the sounds of the sighting. There's another vehicle on its way. It's going to have to come through, but they should be able to get around me. Safari Dean's very excited. Safari Dean's saying that I've found 2 of his favorite animals, and there's still basically 2/3 of the sunrise safari still left to go. I'm very glad. I've definitely enjoyed my start to the morning. It's been highly, highly entertaining. Nothing like starting off with 3 male lions and then moving on to a herd of elephants, all clustered beneath a marula tree. They're moving through that monkey orange, and speaking from experience, the trees that they are moving through are exceptionally uncomfortable. They have spine-like branches and twigs that scratch and rip at clothing. Sorry, this is incredible. How did Jeandre manage to do that? She somehow managed to go from driving south down Triple M, she's just emerged to the north of me. That's amazing. It's like she's got some kind of wormhole. It's incredible. Most of you, of course, will know who Jeandre is. Jeandre was one of our viewers who has since followed her dream to become a guide, and she's done incredibly well. Very recently qualified, and from what I hear, she is exceptionally talented at this particular job. I think one of the amazing thing about elephants, and the reason why we are so touched whenever we spend time with them, is the bonds between the herd members. We spoke a lot about this yesterday with that young male elephant that was playing peekaboo with us. And we spoke about how the bonds of the herd will persist throughout an elephant's life, particularly if they are female. And Anna, you're wondering to take that a step further. You're wondering if it is true that elephants will take care of older and infirm elephants. And they will, absolutely they will, to a certain extent. Once an elephant reaches an age where they really are just too old to be able to keep up with the herd, they will, especially when their teeth start to wear down and they can no longer chew as well as they could, they will start to move away from the herd and move off on their own. That being said, as our elephants disappear, I've heard stories of blind elephants or partially blind elephants moving about with the herd, and the herd waiting and guiding them through the bush, waiting for them to catch up. I've seen injured elephants where the rest of the herds will stay with them. And I've been on a couple of veterinary examples where we've gone and darted an elephant for one or another reason, and you can see the way in which the whole herd is attempts to be exceptionally protective of that particular elephant, particularly if it's the matriarch, because they look to her for guidance, but it can be across the board. For any member of that herd, it is just like humans, that is a member of their family, and they're going to be exceptionally protective of it. Less so when it comes to the males, particularly with the teenage males, around 12, 13, 14, when they start to get pushed to the outskirts of the herd and they move off on their own. Nevertheless, they definitely have an exceptionally protective streak to them, and they will look after sick and infirm members. It only applies to a point, though, because the matriarch has to decide what is best for the good of the herd. Hello. I didn't even see you, girlie. She's right behind us. She's got a youngster with her as well, a straggler. Hello, girlie. Yes, you're very big and scary. Okay. And you, little one? Watch the way it's going to run after Mom. Head up, tail up. Little one's definitely a bit more anxious. But as I was saying, the matriarch has to make a decision as to what is best for the herd as a whole and not just one individual elephant. So whilst they will look after each other, they can't necessarily, that doesn't extend indefinitely. If an elephant is slowing them down, if she cannot keep up with the rest of the herd, they can't wait for her the whole time. And that's the point at which they start moving off on their own towards riverbeds and so on. But elephants are known to surround carcasses and go and explore them. Whether or not they are mourning, whether or not they are upset, that's up to you to decide how you interpret it. No one will ever really be able to know until we study them further. Personally, I think they do recognize individual dead and the way in which they respond to that. I think they are intelligent enough to know that. Our elephant herd has moved off, and we're going to continue on our way, just because it's been one of those incredible mornings. In the meantime, let's find out what Brent has got planned for you.
So we are still in search of Queen Karula. So we haven't found any tracks. I think she might have gone into this very thick area to our west here. So what I am hoping is that she might, if she hasn't caught anything in there, that she might start heading back southeast. We're just checking very carefully all these little areas for tracks. Ooh, I nearly put Jeandre into a thorn tree. So tracking a leopard on this very hard soil can be quite difficult. So, I mean, even the tracks we were seeing, we're just seeing the slightest hint of a leopard track. Now, remember, she's quite a small female, so she leaves very delicate little footprints, which can be quite challenging to follow, especially after some rain. We've got to almost hope that every now and then she just plops her foot in a nice soft muddy spot, so we can be sure of where she is. Now, sure, look at that. Oh, knob-billed duck. Nice camera work, Jeandre. So, with all these pans that have got water in the moment, the knob-billed ducks will actually fly around to various different ones But what I just noticed is what we could seriously call an adrenaline junkie foam nest frog. So there you can see the pan. Look how high that foam nest frog is. Those tadpoles need to base jump to get to the water. Sorry guys, just listening to the radio.
I don't. I've got a picture of them, but I'm not even sure where on the boundary, but it's obviously between Cruise Camp and the gate somewhere.
So guys, we're gonna leave Karula for a second. While we were tracking, we saw a Buffalo's Hook vehicle they were heading back home after a lovely few days in the bush. And someone's just said they got sent a picture by those guys leaving of wild dogs somewhere between the gate and here. So I'm going to just quickly go there. Might be a good chance to catch up with them.
And then you'll see if you can get through that long area.
Brian.
From where I am, would you say straight towards the sun or south or north of the base? Straight towards
Sorry
the
guys,
sun.
just be on the radio for a second here.
Yeah, not a second. Yeah, sorry for interrupting me.
Brian.
Standing by.
Brian, confirm that picture was from the guys who left this morning.
I don't have a lot of details except they were on the boundary between Cruise Camp and the gates when they left at about 6 o'clock this morning.
I copy. I saw them at Gallagher Shortcut and they hadn't seen anything yet, so I'm very close to that area. I'm going to go check around Sydney's. So, they passed us about, how long ago, Jeandre? 10 minutes ago?
Yeah,
a bit longer maybe? So, just after they saw us, they found wild dogs somewhere and they sent a picture to their friend who's still here, but I failed to tell them exactly where it is, so we're just trying to work out where they are.
Otherwise you'll have to go around the line.
Okay, so Jamie's on Triple M, so if they go that way, there's a good chance she might spot them, but I'm hoping that they're still around here.
Brian, up now and mobiling straight west.
They've spotted those wild dogs. Let's just have a look. It's a good indication on where to check. Looking. So what we're checking for, what we're tracking at, something. They weren't obviously in there. Oh, let's listen. Look up in the tree. Oh no, don't fly. There's one left. So the rain has also brought the Amma falcons. Beautiful little birds. There's still one sitting in the dead tree. Just one. There he is. Exquisite little raptors. I'm going to try just roll forward, see if we can get a bit closer.
They're still mobile north. Yeah, along the drainage line. Right now I have to put out in there because I lost
Look at that.
and I can't go in here. So I'll go
For
area and come.
mostly insectivorous, and they can be found in Okay. Well, nice little break in search of other things. Then it takes off.
Now, I'm really sorry, I didn't quite think through exactly how I was going to show you those lion tracks when they were on a main road. Unfortunately, the ones that I said take a note of their speed and the way in which they are walking, it's not all that easy to do when it's a main road and the tracks have been driven over. But we have come back to where we first spotted the lions, and we've got some lovely tracks here right in the road. And what I'm going to do to give you a bit of a perspective of scale is I'm going to jump out, just unplug myself here, jump out and show you exactly how big the lion tracks are. And what's lovely about these particular tracks is the fact that there is a hyena's tracks next to them. And just let me know, Dave, if you can see it.
Sure.
Can you see this track here?
Yes.
Have I got it at the right angle? This is the track. So this track is going that direction. And it's roughly about the size of my palm. Now you can compare it to the male lion tracks all around it. This is really perfect. Just look at a good idea of the size difference between a lion of the spotted hyena. So it is smaller than the size of the front track. Nevertheless, it is still a significant size difference. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Looking at it now, because here's the other one, it is actually the front track. It's just a small hyena. So you can see the lions pacing up and down around this road. Their tracks going up and down. We had them just over there where the tire tracks are. So that is where they were lying. And now we've got the tracks moving up and down. I really wanted to give you a nice demonstration in terms of what tracks look like at a certain speed. The only way I think I can do that is to actually describe exactly what it is that we were looking for. So at a very slow walk, a lion registers. Back foot falls on top of the front foot as they walk along for silence reasons. But when they start to walk at the speed that they were walking at, plus if you factor in most of the time they were going downhill, the back track fell essentially on the toes of the front track. That is what I was trying to describe and what we were trying to look for. Unfortunately, just one of those things. Main road, tracks a little bit obliterated. There's one last thing I want to show you. It's a bit tricky. We'll go back to the tracks before I get back in. Ouch. The hyena track that we were looking at before and the cat track. This is the quickest way of identifying when you're driving along and you see a hyena track versus you see a hyena paw. There's a very big difference in the way in which the paws are structured. So this hyena track almost looks like one unit. The toes are squashed together, almost in this soft sand to the point that they're indistinguishable from each other. And then, of course, the claws showing up just at the tip. But with lions and leopards and all of the other big cats, the toes are very much distinct from the rest of the track. 1, 2, 3, 4. The same goes, for example, this track. There's a very clear separation between each toe of this particular track and the back pad. Whereas hyenas, their tracks almost look like puzzle pieces that are squashed together and fit together perfectly. Just something to look out for, because if you're driving along looking for leopard tracks or lioness tracks, which can be a similar size to a large hyena, you don't want to stop for every single hyena track that you see. So it's a useful way of distinguishing, with practice, distinguishing between the different tracks as quickly as possible. And I hear exciting things about potential wild dog sightings. Could this morning really get much better than it has already? I'm going to keep listening to the Game Drive channel. I'm also quite close to the area that they were seen in. Now, we so often see those awesome sightings of animals walking down along a road. And just in the same way that lion tracks register at a normal walking speed, in the same way, lions walk along roads because it's quiet. Animals walk along roads because it's easy. But Lenny was wondering, if we didn't have roads, or before the roads existed, would lions still have covered that enormous distance that they do during the night? So those Birmingham boys could well have walked a good couple of miles, 5-10 miles, quite easily, without even thinking about it, along the different areas. And Lenny, yes, they would have. So roads haven't significantly, as far as we know, changed the way in which lions move, and that comes from studies of areas that don't necessarily have the same road systems. So as far as we know, it hasn't dramatically affected the way in which lions move. And the reason that we say that is because there is an animal out here that creates its own roads, essentially, and there's two. Elephants and hippos create their own very broad pathways that almost look like hiking trails. And I'll find a nice example for you, Lenny, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So game trails are used once the elephants and the lions, or even just large numbers of general game moving through an area, will start to form a pathway in certain aspects, whether they're walking to water or whether they're following a particular route. And those roads, and they are essentially animal roads, get constantly cleared and reinforced as the animals move through. So this is not the best example, but you can sort of see, as we look into the grass here, you can sort of see what I mean about a game trail. There's a clear patch. Can you see where I'm talking about, Dave? You can see a road almost, or at least a hiking path. There you go, perfect. The clearing in the grass. And that is what lions and other animals would have utilized whilst they were, or before there were roads. Just an interesting, very good question, Lenny. And the truth is, I guess, in a way, we don't know exactly how much of an impact the roads have had on the movements of animals out here. Something I've never considered, and it's one of those wonderful questions that gets you to think about the different ways of thinking. There's a vehicle coming up behind me, and we've got to just listen to the Game Drive channel in the meantime. Let's find out how Brent's search is going.
They're still heading north, but they're going.
So the wild dogs were found, unfortunately, outside of our traverse zone. So we're back in the area, checking for Karula again. So I couldn't find any tracks of her crossing north. So I'm hoping that she's turned around and started making her way back towards wherever she might be denning. So I think her den is still outside of our traverse zone, but we might find her hunting in the center of Jeandre. And wouldn't that be wonderful? Catch up with the queen. Sorry, guys.
There's two others, I think, barely here. Copied, I'm going to try and get there. Helen, I'm on Paul Road.
Okay, so those wild dogs are pretty much there, but beyond that hill, about 2 kilometers. So Virginia and Bud are wondering, when Karula moves dens, how does she do it? Does she carry the cubs, or do they just follow her? Well, when they are very little, she will carry them one by one. When they get a bit older, it'll be, depending, maybe a combination of carrying and following. But as soon as they get to about 2 months already, they'll just follow her. Only if they misbehave will she pick them up and carry them. So, still no sign of those tracks. So, I'm going to head down towards the Buffalo's Hook waterhole and then dive in and check around the Drakensberg Road area. Hopefully, we'll find something around there. I'm keeping an ear out to what those dogs are doing. They decide. course, if we fail in all those endeavors, to see if we can find the Nkahuma tracks. Sorry about that. As we went through the dip, there's obviously a gremlin that lives in that particular dip. Mike and Susie have been watching since 2009, so long-time SafariLIVE viewers would like to know, what does Triple M stand for? It's a bit of a complicated one. So you have double M and triple M, and it is the it's Mala, different sections of the Mala boundary. So I'm trying to remember how this works now. So in the old days, Mala used to encompass a property called Marthley, which is just to the south of our Travis area, which now is Londolozi. So as far as I can remember it, I think on 3 different boundaries you had Mala, and Mala. So that's where Triple M came from. And then further down, as the Triple M crosses the Sand River, on the southern side of the Sand River, it becomes Double M. So it is just the name of the main access road that goes through. So Triple M runs from Gowrie Gate all the way to Mala. Double M runs from Shaw's Gate all the way to Mala.
Just wait for the conversation to cease, and then I'll be able to ask Brent exactly where he had the last set of tracks. No, still not yet. Try again in a moment. I'm sure that these Impala know exactly where the lions have gone. There's a huge herd. They're in thick bushes, so it's difficult to judge exactly how many. There's probably at least 50 of them, if not more. Isn't it interesting the way we've seen larger and larger Impala herds over the last few weeks? Not sure exactly why that is, whether it's to do with the drought or whether it's because they're actually getting to the point of the rutting season. Here we go, Brent chatting about his leopard tracks. Let me just try and contact him. A little bit nervous. One female with her head up looking across in our direction. And it's amazing how you can gauge exactly what's happening to an animal like an Impala over the morning or in the night just by looking at their mood alone and their body language. Very often you can see that they're a bit more skittish than normal. Most of this herd, however, has relaxed completely. Oh, here's my chance. Brent Brent. Brent, where did you have last tracks from Nkahumas? Copy that, thank you. Copy that, thank you. I'll check from Vulture's Nest along there. Just double checking with Brent. I wanted to just see if we can follow up on the Nkahuma lionesses before we start heading back to where we lost the Birmingham boys, or we left the Birmingham boys. Pirate Jack saying that he is surprised that we haven't seen more Impala kills over the last week with so many big cats about. And I think the thing is, Pirate Jack, honestly, because we've seen so many lions, not that I'm complaining in any way, shape or form, most of them generally not really all that interested in Impala. Yes, the Nkuhumas might go for a herd of Impala. However, for the most part, Impala, first of all, are exceptionally observant, which makes sense because they're on everybody's menu. And with a big pride like the Nkuhumas, with 5 essentially adults, and with 1 female's right on the borderline of being considered to be an adult, with 5 adult lionesses to feed and the possibility of Birmingham boys as well, an Impala doesn't go all that far. It's like doing your grocery shopping and essentially coming home with, I don't know, a loaf of bread for the week for a family of 4. So it's possible, but not really something that they're all that interested in wasting their energy on. So I think that's why we haven't seen more Impala kills than we have. And to be very interesting, I'm already very fascinated by the tracks that Brent is following. Natasha's right, the Birmingham boys are looking, apart from the odd injury, the Birmingham boys are definitely looking particularly healthy at the moment. That being said, Natasha, they are, from what I could see of them, they are fairly hungry. It doesn't look as though they've been stuffing themselves recently. And it's always a little bit difficult to gauge with a lion because it's such a big, bulky animal. And I've suddenly realized just how hot it's got in the last half an hour. So I actually think looking at the flap of skin showing between, and if you go back to the sighting that we had earlier with the Birmingham boys, that flap of skin between the back legs and around the stomach region was looking particularly prominent to me this morning. And in fact, Dave and I were just discussing the possibility of them going on a hunt in the next sort of, within the time of the sunrise safari. And I've said that I think that it's entirely possible that they would consider it. Lions, male lions, of course, overheat far faster than the females. So they will need to go. It's already, I feel like with the sun out now, it's already topping close to 30 degrees centigrade. It's definitely far hotter than it was when we started our sunrise safari. The chances are they're going to go and lie down somewhere in the shade for the rest of the day. But that's not necessarily an absolute. They might decide to go hunting. I think they will take the opportunity to do so if it presents itself. The way in which they were walking down the main road suggested that they weren't all that interested in being stealthy. We heard Impala alarm calling. All the animals in the area were alert to their presence. Cut off towards Arathusa, they moved west towards Arathusa. Then you might find that they decide to go to the waterhole and see what animals they might encounter there. I am going to go back soon and go and check up on what their purpose is. Both Debbie and Marsha, going back again to our Birmingham West Side thing, when they went to go their heads together, I said that I could hear them purring. And Marsha said they thought. We are just coming up to a bit of a dip in the road. Hopefully our signal stays constant. Debbie and Marsha, just bear with me. I'm going to go through it and then come up the other side before I get to the lions purring and what I meant by that.
Here. Just checking very carefully. We don't want to make a whoopsie-daisy with these tracks. see the last track there. It goes onto the hard ground. I don't see anything again. Here we go. Got him. He's come out onto the road. He's taken the way we wanted him to. So yay for this male leopard. Well, let's not count our chickens too early. And it's hopefully he still hasn't. He just cannot turn to the left again. And otherwise he will depart. Fortunately, I think there's been an anti-poaching vehicle along this road already this morning, which is going to make us following tracks that much more difficult. But exciting stuff, possibly 2 leopards still on the property. I just need to update the other vehicles.
South. They're going back to Buffalo Gary Catline, but there's a water bus they are following to the 19 west. Yeah.
You see anything, Jeandre? Very difficult when there's been a few vehicles already driving down a road. We just need half a track to let us know we're on the right, heading the right direction.
If you copy that?
They should stand by and water bus. I don't know if they're going to follow, but a lot of them are stationary again.
Deary me, this is proving to be very difficult. So it looks like there's been more than one vehicle on here already this morning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to where the next road fork is and see if we can find some tracks there. We might still see a track before that. Also check the termite mounds, check the trees. Really want to make it up for you guys, and the signal yesterday for not being able to show you Tingana. Hopefully we can produce another leopard. Okay, so we're about to approach that next junction of roads. It's coming up there. That'll give us a good idea of where he's gone. If not, I'm going to have to go back to that last track and have a look on foot, and we can see a bit more easily when you're not driving. Starting to warm up nicely. There we go. Jeandre, I hope your eagle eyes are on form. Okay, I gotta go concentrate on trying to find these leopards. While we do that, let's jump on board with Jamie.
As always, the industrious dung beetle, hard at work. This particular individual hasn't really made the roundest ball that I've ever seen in my life. In fact, it's sort of definitely rather egg-shaped, which doesn't make his life all that easy. So this dung beetle has rolled the dung ball, probably from either, it looks like ruminant dung to me, so some antelope species that he's put together, and he's now on the lookout for a female to attract. In the meantime, he's on a mission to push this dung beetle, or this dung ball, sorry, off to a suitable place. I'd love to know what goes on in their heads. Isn't it amazing how they've evolved in the way that they have to use their front legs to sort of do a handstand and then push with their back legs along the dung ball? And what that basically means is that they can't see where they're going, so they have to do exactly what he's just done, which is jump onto the, top of the dung ball and have a look at where he wants to be. Oh, out of control there for a moment. Ah, easy. Road is easy. He knows exactly where he wants to be. Whoopsie. Yes, well, you didn't really roll a very round dung ball there. Now we get to the slope, and he's got to push upwards. And the dung beetle, pound for pound, one of the strongest living organisms in the world. There are, oh, that's a slope and a half. There are certain species, yep, have a look at that, buddy. Decide which way you're going to go. There we go. I think he's found a route over that hill. Well done. Now, essentially, if a dung beetle were the size of a person, there are certain dung beetles that would be capable of lifting the equivalent, I think it's of about 8 tons. So over 16,000 pounds, close to 18,000 pounds of weight. That is how powerful certain dung beetle and rhino beetle species are. And there are lots of different kinds of them. This particular individual rolls his dung ball, goes on a lookout for a lovely lady, because the larger his dung ball, the more attractive he is as a prospective mate. Here we go. Which way are you going, buddy? Have a quick look. And just keep rolling. It's actually a beautiful plum-colored dung beetle, one of the most common species. So you'll find a lovely lady, and he will mate with her. She will lay her eggs in the dung ball, and they will dig it down beneath the surface of the earth. And their larvae, when they hatch, will be well provided for. It's like having a college fund or something. Curtis, it is amazing. The strength that these dung beetles have is incredible. Some of the larger ones that very often fly into camp, we catch and then remove, because they have a tendency to come flying either into somebody's head or into their plate of food. So often at night we catch them, and you put them in your hands, and the way that they push against your hand strength and make their way into the light is absolutely incredible. They're easily, I mean, it actually feels as though they're stronger than my hands. If I cup them in my hands, they can push their way out. It does astound me, that ability. Off he goes. There was another little straggler, but I don't know where he's gone. But speaking of the strength of the dung beetle, Deborah, our armchair traveler, was just suggesting that maybe we should train, or she wonders if there's a way in which we could train dung beetles to move furniture. Definitely would be a very interesting exercise, Deborah. I'm sure there have been all kinds of attempts. It's interesting, I know somebody who's done all of the research into the way in which dung beetles navigate in terms of gravity and the moon, and something that completely confounds my understanding of the way that they work. It's incredible. The reason I actually stopped before I spotted him was this patch of fungus. I'm becoming more and more interested in the mushrooms that have been sprouting up since the rain. I've been doing a lot of research into them and the ones which are edible. I'm fairly certain this falls into one of the edible families, but please don't take my word on that. I definitely would not consider myself a fungus expert, and there are lots of hallucinogenic and poisonous ones. But it's just the way in which this particular, and I mean, all we're looking at the moment is the reproductive part of the fungus. And you'll probably find that this is the same organism. If we look a little bit further along, it's probably exactly the same organism that has extended underneath the ground through hyphae and mycelium, so strands of this particular fungus, to produce these mushrooms as well. A fascinating thought. All reproductive parts. And you have to wonder about what goes on in the life cycle of a mushroom like this, that they are able to sprout as fast as they do. They're not plants, of course. They are their own separate organism, sort of a combination between bacteria and plant species. It is astounding, though, the speed at which they can reproduce. I just happened to, right now, encounter a dung beetle or a dead dung beetle that I found at my feet. So let's just have a look at the way in which their strength works. And this is the perfect way to answer Katie's question about the muscle structure of an insect. And yes, they have muscles, but not in the way that we understand it, Katie. So unlike us with our system of blood vessels that supplies the muscular structure with the different, or with the nutrients they require in order to work, a insect has a hemocoel, so basically an open body cavity, which is one of the things that has restricted them to a relatively small size. But yes, they definitely have a combination of muscular structure and tendinous structure, but it's not muscles in the same way that ours are constructed. And you can really see with these spurred forelimbs, essentially the way in which they push their dung balls is to move on their heads like this. Sorry, he is dead, by the way. I'm not sure how he died, but I just found him in the footwell. So they push backwards like this with their legs up in the air. And what a fascinating way to approach life than to work like that. And then this really solid casing that encloses its wings that I think actually even at the moment, I don't think I could prise it open without breaking the shell or without breaking the exoskeleton. It would be very difficult for me to prise open his wing structure. This is a totally different species to the one that we were looking at, and there's easily in the region of about 4,000 different dung beetles just in this area alone. It's impossible to tell you which one it is. And when they walk, what they do is the front limbs and the hind limbs are very, very strong. So the front limb moves with the hind limb forwards, and the middle leg sort of acts like a pivot. So he will rest his weight on the middle leg on the right and move his front left and back left forward, if that makes sense. I've actually got a slow motion video that I should probably show you to demonstrate exactly what I mean. Such a different structure to the ones that we know and understand. And of course, although it might be a bit difficult for you to see, he is actually covered in very, very fine, almost minute hairs around his face and his forelimbs. And those are also filled with parasites. So although he is just a little dung beetle, he does carry his own mites, and the mites move through and keep him clean. Because you can imagine, if you've got these segmented joints, it's almost like having some kind of robotic arm or something similar, that if you collect a whole load of dung sitting in the joints of the legs, they're not going to work. And that's why he has mites that help to keep him clean. And of course, there's that famous example of an attempt to introduce a species. Now, Australia, many, many years ago, had a slight problem with cow dung, an excessive amount of cow dung attracting an excessive amount of flies, because they didn't have, or in the opinion of the scientists at the time, they didn't have anything to remove that dung. So what they did was they tried to transport a load of dung beetles from South Africa across to Australia. And what they did whilst doing that was put these dung beetles in quarantine and clear away all of the mites that lived on the back of them. So they introduced the dung beetles to help them clear away the cow dung, and they couldn't understand why the dung beetles were dying until they realized that the quarantine process and the way in which the dung beetles were almost sterilized was actually responsible for killing them. This is just an interesting little fact it goes to show sometimes how little we really understand about the way in which things work. And as we leave our beautiful sparkly fungus, and they are sparkling really beautifully in the dew, I'll try and get you a nice view. See if you can get it there, Dave. Nikunj was wondering, have I ever seen any animals eating from this fungus? And the answer is generally no, I haven't. We did find that one really, really large fungus. That was, look how beautiful that is in its own way. We did find that really large fungus that had clearly been fed upon. And when I went back to ask if anybody at camp knew what it was actually James who suggested that it was a Speke's hinge tortoise that had been feeding upon it, which is something that I didn't realize. I didn't know how much of their diet or how much they will willingly eat a fungus like this. But Nikunj, no, I don't often see animals feeding on these mushrooms, which I think is fairly clear evidence that perhaps they are to be avoided for the most part, especially for us. We don't have the same digestive resilience that most of the other animals demonstrate. I'm sure you are all curious about how this leopard tracking expedition has been going, so let's find out what Brent has found.
So, very sad, the male has departed. So we're now trying to jump ahead of where the direction Karula's last tracks were heading, and hopefully we have some luck with her. And it is quite warm already, although we do know Karula does often hunt during the day and even in the heat of the day. So maybe we will have some luck yet. It seems like my tracking expeditions have been massively unsuccessful today, but we will continue to try.
In front. Right.
Hello, Kudus.
Hello. If you had,
A female kudu gracefully departing. Oh, she's stopped now. So at least we know we've got a lookout for Karula. If she does happen to pop up in this area, that kudu will let us know. So let's see if we're ahead or behind at this next road junction. So her last tracks came from over there and we're heading in this general direction. This area here is an area she really likes to hunt in. It's a very thick area and quite a lot of steenbok and duiker, which are preferred prey species. So this is the main body of the herd now. Oh, look at her, she's going to go right past the front of us. Hello, big lady. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out. Oh, look at this little guy coming right next to us. Hey, little guy. So the ellies are moving past us, so we're going to try and get ourselves into a better position. Now, they're very spread out at the moment. I can literally just see elephant ears flapping a very wide circle around us. And this is quite common when they are feeding. And I'm just going to try and find the ellies that are on the best spot. Of course, we don't want to off-road too much after all the rain. So those ellies further in there are closer towards where the little riverbed is, and they're going to get some clay soils around there. So I'm just going to stay with the ones that are closer to the road. Okay, let's have a look. Who's going to offer us the best view? Unfortunately, none of them are in a particularly good spot. Although that one looks like it might be walking towards us. So when Jeandre? Back. go. Look at that. Look at these ellies feeding off what looks to be a red thorn and acacia. Two youngsters, probably one of about 6 years old and the other about 8. Yeah. They look like they're going to come right past us. It always amazes me how dexterous they are. Oh, look on that one's trunk, Jeandre. I don't know, I think Jamie might have seen this elephant yesterday. Yeah, so a little growth. It's very interesting that. I'm going to try to snap a picture of it. And see, does it look, I'm not sure if it looks infected. Is it possibly from a wound or is it... Sorry, Jeandre. So I think it's possibly from a wound, or it even looks like a cyst that might have exploded. And Mac on YouTube says, elephants are so wonderful. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Mac. It is one of the most wonderful creatures to spend time with. And off they cross the road. Here we go. Thanks very much to all the viewers. 220 kilograms is 485 pounds, and that's what a big male elephant can eat. So, if we look here, I'm just going to get this in the right place. So it looks like, I don't know, possibly a cyst or I don't know if we can see. Can you see, Jeandre? Let me just try to get it. So you can see it's actually infected. And it almost looks like a boil or a cyst or something that's exploded. Now, maybe a very sharp stick went in there and caused that. But I'm not sure what has caused that. But you can see it's definitely infected. You can see the white blood cells or the pus all in there. Shame, poor little one. Okay. Well, none of these ellies are in a particularly good position. And unfortunately, the area we're in, we don't want to off-road in. So I'm just looking around. And we'll see if we can get one last look of their bottoms. But it doesn't look like it, so let's jump back on board with Jamie, who's got a feathered creature to show you.
Just have a look at this. A stunning purple roller in the sunlight. I wanted to try and sneak around so that we could get the best possible position of the sun striking it at the right angle, but I didn't want to risk it disappearing before I could show you. Just a quick update on the Birmingham boy sighting that we had this morning. They are now lying flat on the main road into Arathusa Lodge. Unfortunately, there are several vehicles still waiting, so we might be able to squeeze ourselves in before the end of the sunrise safari. Unfortunately, I don't think that it's going to be possible. Nevertheless, it does mean that they will be around for our sunset safari this afternoon, just to let you know exactly what's happening. Should we try and get a closer look at this roller? Let's go for it. Luckily, there's a road just there. So there you go, Carol. You wanted to know if we were going to go back to the lions. I did try, Carol. Unfortunately, as I said, lots of vehicles still waiting for their chance to see them. Don't fly, please, buddy, don't fly. There we go. We've got a beautiful view of this purple roller with the strip across the top of the eye. Very different from the lilac-breasted roller, slightly larger in terms of bulk and body weight, with a bit of mottling around the chest. Not quite as bright lilac as a lilac-breasted roller, and not as much blue. And if you have a look at the tail, you don't see the two distinctive long streamers that extend from a lilac-breasted roller's tail. So this is a purple roller. And top of the white strip on top of the eye is very distinctive. Where's he gonna fly? And that powerful beak. Now we've come across in this direction because I wanted to just get an update on where the Birmingham boys are. That being said, I still very firmly believe that there are still lions on Jeandre itself. The females are somewhere there. I know that some of you were wondering about that, and I'm fairly certain. Matt in Tennessee, you in particular were asking about where the females are. The answer is, I think the Nkahuma pride of the 5 females is somewhere in the Mulwati drainage line. I haven't managed to locate them, and I did leave that particular area in order to follow up on the Birmingham boy sighting. But I'm sure that they are there, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to locate them this afternoon. We definitely heard several sets of lions calling. And in fact, there could even be 2 other Birmingham boys on Jeandre as well. The reason I say that is we were missing 2 from this morning's sighting, and Sinead has just told me that she saw tracks coming onto Jeandre from our southern boundary. There could well be 2 other male lions there. Maybe with the females, possibly not. Hard for us to tell exactly. Nevertheless, I'm fairly certain they are around, and they will be around for this afternoon's sunset safari. Just a quick comment on Brent's sighting of that elephant. I find that absolutely fascinating. We saw that little elephant with the boil on his trunk before. I would absolutely love to know exactly what is happening there. It's something I haven't seen, or at least I haven't seen very often at all, on an elephant. We'll double check with some experts in the field and get back to you on what exactly that is. I'm sure you are all as curious as I am. And this roller has been unbelievably cooperative. Thank you very much. Safari Dean has suggested maybe our little baby elephant with the wart on his trunk has been kissing warthogs. Quite possibly, Safari Dean, or maybe he's been playing with frogs, which is what I was always told about handling frogs, was that they would give me warts. Definitely not the case, though. I've handled lots of frogs, and I've never had any warts. Definitely an old wives' tale there. But yes, maybe our baby elephant has been up to no good. During the day, the night sky dominated by... Oh, sorry, that didn't make any sense, that sentence. During the day, the sky is dominated by birds like this purple roller, but at night, Candy was wondering if we ever see any bats fluttering around. And yes, Candy, we do. We see plenty of bats. Their population has been a little bit, I almost would say, subdued this year, and I think maybe to do with the lack of normal insect life that we would usually see due to the drought. That being said, we still see them fluttering about every now and again, both the larger species of fruit bat as well as the smaller insect-eating bats that fly around. Just trying to think if I've got a book that will be able to show you a picture. I'm actually particularly fond of bats. I think that they're quite cute. Very interesting looking animals. I'm less fond of them though. Where I used to live, we had bats that occupied our bathroom, and they would sit and watch you. You'd try and go to the toilet with about 8 bats clinging onto the wall, looking down on you with great interest. Had to sort of learn to deal with them. So we've got the Megachiroptera, which is the fruit bats, and the Microchiroptera, which is the insect-eating bats. So lots and lots of different species. And in fact, in terms of the most numerous animal migrations, that usually goes to the number of bats that move throughout Africa and follow the different explosions of insect-eating populations. I'm trying to find you a nice, clear example. You get some really interesting-looking creatures. For example, this bizarre-looking thing that looks almost like something out of a fairy tale with that pug-like face. That's an Angolan free-tailed bat, just on the edge of their range. We do get them in this particular area. If I go through, you can sort of see exactly the different types of bats that we might see. It's an Egyptian free-tailed bat. Now it's interesting, you can see the adaptations between the bats that look for fruit and navigate through eyesight and hearing compared to those that move with echolocation, such as these little guys with the large ears that bounce the sound back towards them. And all of the bats so far that I've gone through in this area, or that I've gone through in this book, are bats that we could see here. Not all of them have pictures. And this amazing wing structure with the extended fingers that allow them to fly and spread that wing-like membrane. One of my favorite bat facts is that a bat with a relaxed foot, so a relaxed foot, I'm going to finish up here. There's lots and lots of them within that book, but I'm not going to go into all of the detail. So a bat that is relaxed, their foot is firmly closed, and they actually have to tense their muscles in order to open it. So that means that is the reason why they can sleep clinging upside down without having to worry about falling off in the middle of their sleep. And I think probably one of my favorite bat on camera things that I've ever watched was one of David Attenborough's very first documentaries that he ever did, talking about how bats' echolocation is so good. He was sitting in a cave, or he was standing in a cave with bats, hundreds of thousands of bats flying around him. And he was saying how in the pitch black their echolocation is so good that they will never fly into his head. And one promptly flew straight into the side of his head and became entangled in his hair. I have been hit in the face before with a bat. And there's nothing like having one fluttering about your bedroom either when you're trying to sleep. You do get used to them though. Definitely one of my favorite animals to see. Go back a second to see if there are any examples, since we did stop for that dung beetle. If there are any dung beetles in this particular pile of dung. Sure, lots of them actually. No, actually, no, there aren't any. I thought there might be a nice dung beetle rolling a ball as a good example of how they go about that whole process, but there isn't. And Brent is still with his elephant herd, so let's see what they're up to this time.
Okay, so we've come across another herd of ellies, and it looked like they might be heading towards Chele Pan. So we've zoomed around in front of them, and hopefully they're going to have a little bit of a mud bath. And there's some little ones. We all know how a little elephant loves a little bit of mud. Here they come.
Yeah, I will try and knock off road and I'll come okay.
Okay, so here we go. They're on the opposite side of the pan now. And will they play, or will they just carry on feeding? Because there is so much water around at the moment. Fingers crossed. So I just got the most fascinating update, which I'll enthrall you with shortly, once we see what these ellies are going to do. I've got a seeking suspicion they're going to keep heading into the thickets and deciding today is not a good day. It's not hot enough yet to come play in the water. There's still one or two I can just see moving through around there. But it looks like they're completely avoiding the pan. So, very sad. We're going to an incredibly thick area where we won't be following them, unfortunately. But chatting about ellies, Safari Dean was wondering, do I have any very epic, memorable elephant sightings? Well, I do, lots in fact, from all over the place. But I think we'll start or stick to here for now. Come on, ellies. I think it was quite a memorable sighting a few mornings ago. Maybe we're still in with a chance. Can just make out the flapping ears through the bush. There we go, Jeandre, coming to the right. And SafariLIVE, I will get back to my favorite Ellie sighting shortly. Let's just see what this one is up to. Seems to be more interested in the white berry bush than the pan. Oh, but there's some youngsters. Now, they're always good for a bit of fun. Now, are you hungry or in a playful mood? Come on, you know you want to. It's right there. No, still busy with breakfast. So the other morning we had a really interesting sighting with that cheeky elephant bull. And we had to teach him a little bit of manners. There's a little one there. That was quite fun. But I think right just as I started, I think it was with Brian, we had an incredible elephant sighting of a big Ellie bull who actually sprayed us with dust around the Buffalo's Hook waterhole. That was wonderful. And really not interested in the mud right just yet. Might as well have a drink. We're here. Oh no, just a little splash behind the ears to keep cool. If not, why not? Oh, look at that. Nice grass on the move. But it does look like they're completely ignoring the pan today. But maybe a little trouble will change that. But it doesn't look like it, unfortunately. They definitely seem to be moving with some purpose, feeding quite quickly as they move. They've got somewhere they want to be. So they are going to carry on moving through the thicket. We'll stay with them as long as possible. They are just such wonderful creatures. Mike on YouTube is thinking the same as me. He says, come on, Ellies, jump in. The water looks great. I agree, but obviously, Mike, the Ellies don't. They're definitely on a mission, so to speak. They're not really stopping to feed. They're moving quite quickly. Quite the opposite of the herd we saw a little bit earlier that were vastly spread out and feeding all over the place. There we go, nice big mouthful of acacia. And you see most of these acacia, or the red thorns in particular, are all very much pruned and kept quite small by elephants. We don't really find any big ones. So obviously they definitely do like feeding on them. Oh, and there's another little one appearing out of the thickets. Well, let's try see if we can get a better view. So the update that is going to definitely interest most of you guys out there is that I did tell you that Ephraim managed to find Tingana not too far from where we had the last tracks going to the east. And while he was following him walking down the road, they're not sure who the other leopard is, but he saw another male leopard. Apparently Mvula has been around that area, and he took off chasing the male leopard. I don't know what the outcome is yet. They're trying to find them both still, but I will keep you updated. So the ellies are being kind enough to move in the thickets, but very close to the road, and they're ignoring another pan. Oh no, maybe the little one's not. No, it's so close, so close. You know you want to. Seems far more preoccupied with eating grass.
Alex? Yeah, standing by.
Hey, little one. Yes, you can do it. Come for the water. Let's make a splash. Oh, isn't that just sweet? Come on, jump in. Look at that little nose. So, sorry guys, quickly across to Jamie, who's got a bird species which might be new for a lot of your lists.
Take a look at this strange creature. Not a first for regular viewers, but definitely could well be a first for our newer viewers, adding to your bird list. That is not any kind of growth or strange defect in this duck. It is just the way the male ducks look. It is known as a comb duck or a knob-billed duck. Not a nobbled duck, a knob-billed duck. This is so awesome. I haven't seen one of them in ages. I've forgotten just how weird they really look. Look at you with your funny face. Now that is an example of evolution doing some rather bizarre things. Males have particularly prominent combs or sort of extensions on their beak that first of all serve as a resonating chamber, but also as an attractive feature if you are a lady duck, or a lady knob-billed duck at least. It's so cool to see. First time I've seen one of these birds in a very long time. Off he goes. That was amazing. So just to show you in our bird book what a normal or what a female knob-billed duck looks like. She doesn't have that comb on the top of her beak. And it gets much, much larger in the males during breeding season. And it does act, as I said, as a resonating chamber. One of those funny things, it's like the long tails on paradise widers and other such birds that the males get in breeding season. Total disadvantage. I mean, you can imagine how his eyesight, imagine what that's like, having that constantly in your field of view and adapting to that. It's amazing. Lovely to see. A new one maybe for some of you to add to your bird list. Brent's still with his elephants, so why don't you pop back over there?
So we have had a taker at the next little pan. Hello. And not any very serious mud playing, just some spraying of water. And you can see that prehensile tip of the ellies very, very well there. And he's actually closing it and then just spraying water out of 2 jets. Just having a bit of fun. Look at that. And maybe he'll inspire some of the other ellies to come join. Isn't that wonderful? Look at just playing with the water. That's all he's doing there. And not really drinking, not really mud bathing, just having a good old time. You can hear them talking. Well, they disappear over there. We're chatting about the elephant's trunk, and you can see how he's using it now. Pluck that grass. And incredibly dexterous. Now, the Asian elephant's tip is not quite as dexterous as the African elephant. It is slightly different. While the African elephant has 2 prehensile tips, the Asian elephant only has 1, so not quite as useful as the African elephant's trunk. African elephants also, of course, quite a lot larger than Asiatic elephants. We can hear the talking. There's a female literally right behind us. Here we go, sneaking up on Jeandre. Do love it, those sounds. Oh, she's right here. And we are incredibly privileged to be able to sit with these animals like this and for them to take no notice of us and just continue with their existence. And I think this little calf coming up is hers. There we go. Hey, little man. You gonna get cheeky? Not today. Gonna run after Mom. Maybe Mom will start the fun in the pan. Nope. Well, it looks like they're gonna head through into the thick bush there, down towards the Moati River system. We've had such a lovely sighting. We're not going to off-road and follow them in there. Lovely, relaxed little herd. So we're just chatting about... Oh, there we go. She's out in the open again. And it seems like she might be the matriarch, because as soon as she started moving off, the rest are following her. As you can see, off they all go in unison. So we're chatting about the trunk, and he has a nice little illustration of the difference between the Asian elephant's trunk. Jeandre, just tell me where I must move myself. Oh, there we go. So the top there, the Asiatic elephant, and the bottom, the African elephant. So you can see the 2 distinct little tips compared to the one in the Asiatic. Oh, they're crossing the road in front of us. Let's try to get a bit closer. Change direction again. So this road does stick to the edge of the Moati, so quite nice to be able to see them as they're moving through, and you can actually see the beginning of, or it's a little stream of the main drainage system. Here we go, there's another one. There's some more ellies there. So Natasha in Ontario is wondering, what is the purpose of me talking to the elephants? Well, in this situation, nothing really. They're completely relaxed, and you can just see how this big female, with her calf suckling, is really not taking any heed of us whatsoever. But sometimes, if the animals are a little bit distressed or whatnot, you try just use a nice even tone, just to sort of let them know that you're non-threatening. And on other times, you can shout at them to be threatening if they start to look like they might be a little bit naughty. So still no update on who the other leopard that Tingana was chasing is, but I will keep my ears to the ground and see if Bush Telegraph doesn't tell me. You can see her starting to flap her wings more regularly as it gets hotter. Literally the temperature has increased, I would guess, by at least 10 degrees since the beginning of the safari. So it's 6 degrees higher than the beginning, or Celsius, 6 degrees Celsius higher than the beginning of the safari. But I think today is going to be a scorcher. And it is also very humid at the moment, so quite muggy with all that moisture that's around. And look at that, 2 elephant bottoms, one big, one small. Very cute. Wagging their tails. Keep those flies away. It's just such a wonderful calming effect about sitting around ellies, just watching them peacefully feed. Oh, enough of that tree for Mom. Oh, there you go. So, guys, just to let you know about what's happening on the Sunset Safari, there will be a school joining us for the first half an hour. So during those drives that we do have schools with us, we will be focusing on taking the school questions. But as soon as that first half an hour is over, we'll be back to normal in terms of how we deal with questions and comments and things like that. Also, just a reminder, especially for South Africans, today is Human Rights Day, and obviously a very important day in South African history, and we are very privileged to live in a country that is able to come as far as it has in such a short space of time from a terrible past. So Human Rights Day in South Africa. Not that that little Ellie is thinking too much about it. Oh, isn't that sweet? That's a smaller ellie. We haven't seen that one yet. I think those were feeding much further off in the Mawati. So it has been a wonderful sunrise safari. Great lines with Jamie. We unfortunately were eluded by Karula, but we will definitely look for her again on the Sunset Safari. Jamie just says I better make sure I've got my cameraman before I head home. Jeandre is there. There we go. There he is. Here's his finger, so I haven't lost him again. But look forward to seeing you all in a few hours on the Sunset Safari from Jeandre and myself. Bye.